Welcome back. Facebook and Instagram are announcing an expansion of their ban on white supremacist activity on their platforms, saying in a statement, quote, "We're announcing a ban on praise, support, and representation of white nationalism and separatism on Facebook and Instagram, which we will start enforcing next week. It's clear that these concepts are deeply linked to organized hate crimes, hate groups, and have no place on our services." These steps mark the most significant and direct actions taken to combat the spreading of hate and racist ideology on a social media platform to date. Joining me to discuss this further is conservative radio host Steve Malzberg and Dee Watkins, editor-at-large for Salon Magazine. Thank you both for joining me. I want to start with you, Steve. The first question we should get into is this the right step? I mean, in the wake of New Zealand and other recent attacks, the spotlight has again been put on the growing threat of white nationalist terrorism. Many have said for years that social media has taken a passive role in combating this threat online. So is this the right step? Is this them finally stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing?
Well, yeah, here's the funny thing. You could ask what's taken so long, and Facebook will say that it really didn't have anything to do with the shooting in the mosque in New Zealand, even though the Prime Minister of New Zealand blames social media. They say that they've been dealing and studying this for 3 months with quote-unquote members of civil society and academics. And they found that white nationalists, that you couldn't separate them from white supremacists. And so therefore they're instituting this. But here again, and again, I denounce white supremacists and all that kind of stuff. This isn't about that. This is about what should be allowed on this platform. And, you know, if you have, and I'm not comparing because there's no violence, but if you have calls for, on campus, groups to live separately based on race, and if you have other groups being able to put forth propaganda or information about separatism and separate things for separate races and separate groups, then how do you justify this? Because there was a shooting? I'm just afraid that these members of civil society and academics are a bunch of leftists, and look, they consider Breitbart to be a white supremacist nationalist group. I mean, are they going to ban Breitbart from Facebook?
Hey,
that could happen too. And
I want Dee to respond to that question now and to respond to your remarks. See, what do you have to say?
Yeah, the problem is, or I guess for white supremacists, this is a great opportunity for them to start to build their own platforms because, you know, I don't think deplatforming them is going to stop like the racist and the hateful rhetoric that they want to spread throughout the airwaves. It may hurt them in trying to create new people who might not have been as open to those ideas. You know, it's crazy how we look at social media and we try to compare it to journalism. A Facebook account should not really be treated like a publication, but it's what's happening right now. And I think it's been so sloppy and irresponsible that the people at Facebook and Instagram don't really have a choice but to deplatform these people.
And to your point, Dee, some people, they would immediately knee-jerk to calling this a violation of freedom of speech. But then the question would be, how is it a freedom of speech issue? These are not public companies. These are private companies. These are companies that have set guidelines that a user agrees to before they're allowed to use the platform. This is not a government censoring speech. It is a private company regulating how it is used. What do you say to that, Steve?
Well, they fall under government control in certain aspects. They could be considered, certain agencies have control and oversight over what's on the internet. And I think that they're going to find themselves, again, the president, we should point out that there's a lawsuit filed by the administration today against Facebook, and Facebook says they're shocked because they settled this with the ACLU, where they were allowing, you talk about racism and whatnot, they were allowing people who were putting up apartments for rent and housing for purchase or rent to target their audience based on race, gender, you know, incredible ethnicity, incredible stuff. And Facebook says, oh, we didn't know we were doing that. Facebook and the other platforms are getting away with really bad stuff, and in censoring certain groups of people, they do have to be held accountable, and I believe one day the government will hold them accountable.
What do you say to that, Dee?
You know, again, when you get into the whole argument of white supremacy and what Facebook is doing and some of the rhetoric or some of the things that happen as a result of Facebook, it's easy to advocate for how wrong it can be to silence people. But at the end of the day, it's all fine and good until your child gets killed. Then it's like, oh my God, why were they allowed to do this on Facebook? So I think it's a huge step in the right direction. But I also think that as a country and as people, we need to work harder at getting rid of where the root of this hate comes from if we ever want to truly solve the problem.
Now, this news about Facebook and Instagram, it comes just as an executive at Twitter says their platform is planning to label tweets from Trump and other politicians that violate their user policies. So is this not just isolated to Facebook or Instagram? Is this the future of social media? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing this. They've been kicking people off. You know, Keith Olbermann, who got hired by friendly Disney, used to tweet out every day, F Trump, with saying the whole word in his tweets. And he never got banned. And then you have conservatives who do very innocuous things by comparison, and they disappear. So they've been doing this, and they're going to continue to do this. Again, we have a feckless government when it comes to regulating these people and taking into account or calling into account the censorship against conservative groups. Now, look, I hope they're banning radical Islamic fundamentalist messages and places for people to congregate on Facebook as well, not just white nationalists. We need to go after all of terrorism, not just one part.
What are your thoughts on that, Dee?
I think white nationalists they commit the most crimes. They're murdering the most people. They're murdering the most people. Every time you turn around and you see these shootings, it's always some frustrated white person. It's not some,
Really?
it's true. It's true. We don't live in the Middle East. We live in America. We live in America, the home of Dylan Roof. We don't live in the Middle East.
Here, and there are reports that show that just last year, white supremacists did carry out the most hate crimes in this country. I want to jump to my next question here. What are the political implications of this, Steve, where Representative Devin Nunes has filed a lawsuit against Twitter, claiming in part that it censors conservative voices? Will this become a political issue as 2020 heats up, much like the NFL protests and other issues?
I hope it certainly does. I hope they organize. Republicans are the worst. The elected Republicans are the worst at getting messages out. That's why Donald Trump was so refreshing to Republicans and to America. He says what's on his mind. We need a list. We need a list of all the banned and censored conservative people and groups that have been kicked off or penalized in one way by all the social media, and then a list of the liberal left-wing ones. And you'll see the difference. And people should be outraged. And to the other point, New Zealand wasn't in this country, yet it rightfully brought up this whole debate. So just to say that Christians are being killed all over the world, not here, I don't think that that's an excuse by any means.
Yeah, New Zealand didn't take place here, but other issues have. Dee, if conservatives push too hard against this or against these platforms working to regulate hate speech, do they run the risk of drawing a correlation between conservative values and white supremacy?
You know, I don't think all conservatives are racist. I don't think all Republicans are racist, but if you are a racist, more than likely you're probably a Republican. So at the end, again, so if you really, really, really want to change these issues, then the people who get highlighted, the Rush Limbaughs and the Alex Jones screaming at the camera, like when you highlight these people and these people represent your movement and you don't check them or you don't step up and talk about how wrong some of the things are that they say, then you run the risk of being the person who's okay with that, and we're going to think that their views represent you as well. So again, I'm still talking. I'm not in it. Yeah, I don't try to put people in a box. I don't know. I never saw you in my life. I don't know how you feel. I would like to imagine that you're enjoying your Thursday with two black people and that you're not a racist person. But again, with the rhetoric that comes, with the rhetoric that comes out, it just happens, and we could all do better. As people, we could all do better.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to cut in here. I'm going to have to end this. That's it for time. Thank you so much, Steve Malzberg and Dee Watkins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.